Hello and welcome back to another top agent interview. Today we've got my friend of the business here, Ryan Valet. Am I saying that right?
Belay. Yeah, everybody says it wrong
Perfect.
in one way
Love
or the
it.
other.
Okay, great. So again, I'm taking over for David DeFord. He is out and I've taken over the show. My name is JD and I'm actually a face-to-face agent located in Colorado. And I'm a rookie agent. I'm new out in the field. So just to give a little bit different perspective than the normal stuff Dave's doing. Obviously, we all love Uncle Dave, but just to mix things up here. So maybe I have a little bit different perspective or questions that I would like to ask Ryan. So Ryan is one of our top producers. He hit the leaderboard here within the last week or two, but I mean, I'm pretty sure I see him on the sales records all the time. He's been around with the agency for some time. So what we'd like to do here today is just dig into and find out what telesales is really like, just both for people considering getting into the business or even people like myself that are out there in the field and driving all day and going into some questionable situations that the grass always looks greener on the other side, right? It's like, man, it sure would be nice. Maybe I do need to go to telesales. So that's really the audience that we're here to speak to today. And Ryan, let me ask you to kick things off. Give us a little bit about your background. How did you come into Final Expense and what was kind of your background? Let's start there.
Yeah, sure. So I had a background in sales before I started in insurance. We're pushing about 2 years now in the business, and it came from a background in actually doing telesales for TV, selling TV and internet over the phone. And in doing that, it taught me a lot on how to do things over the phone. Some things with COVID and everything, I decided to part ways with that sales job and found some good opportunities in Final Expense life insurance. And so kind of jumped in and started in home, and then moved into telesales, and then went back to in-home for some time. And then now I've absolutely, without a doubt, found my home in telesales. So I think I definitely have that figured out at this point. So.
Gotcha. So let me ask you, Ryan, how critical would you say that background experience in sales was before you got started? Do you feel like that's essential? Do you feel like it just kind of made it a little bit easier? Do you feel like it matters? Or what are your thoughts on that?
Absolutely matters. I would say that's a large part to why I was able to, or why I've been so consistent with telesales, is the fact that I had that previous experience and training, I will add. So it's not just a sales experience. It's true training on how to do things over the phone. Absolutely huge. It's not easy getting into telesales by any means. So.
Okay. And then can you maybe speak to that situation? Because you mentioned when you first came in, you started out in the field and you kind of did a little back and forth, kind of guide us through that process and kind of, the thought process when you're switching back and forth and what made you decide to ultimately to stay with telesales.
Yeah. So the biggest thing was whenever I first got in the business, really wasn't a whole lot of people talking about telesales. It was really just starting to become hot. And pretty much everybody did it in home. So I started in home. I was actually working insurance part-time. And at that time, driving to all these places, I didn't have the time to spend multiple days without sales. So to me, it just seemed completely inefficient not to take advantage of doing telesales once I started hearing about it. So, not realizing it's not a real job, I went to my upline at the time and asked essentially for permission, and to find out that I didn't need permission to do that. So long story short, decided to go to telesales to be more efficient. And realized that I did pretty well, and things were going well. Then some things changed in the organization just above me, and they said, hey, let's make a move to another IMO. We made that move. And they were strictly face-to-face. So I had the intention of staying telesales. Unfortunately, that did not work out. Essentially, with direct mail, that can be very difficult and expensive.
Yeah.
And without the right training, I will add, which I've learned a lot, especially coming over to Dave's group. Without the right training, you're backup, right? So those who are doing similar things as you makes a huge difference.
Okay.
Whether you're face to face or telesales, it is huge to have somebody who knows what they're doing to
Mhm.
back you up and actually
Yeah.
guide you with the things that you need to be doing, saying whatever it may be. So
Yeah.
anyway, went in home for 6 months, added Medicare to the repertoire, and
Okay.
um, realized I absolutely disdain going in home.
Mhm.
It's still just as inefficient as it ever was to me,
Okay.
right? And I will say the biggest thing that um, reason why I made the decision to go back to telesales was I don't like it's not just the inefficiency, but there's I'm not much of a face-to-face guy, right? I am the type of guy that loves sitting in my four walls,
Mhm.
right? I had a friend who absolutely had to be in front of people. He could do it over the phone, but he loved being in front of people, so he did that, right? So um, it's really a matter of preference. If you're only doing it so you can not have to drive around, it's probably not the right reason for doing it. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love sitting in my office day to day. So
Okay. Well, let's do this, Ryan. Let's give these folks out here kind of like what I would call a reality check. Walk us through what a typical week looks like or a typical day for you when you're working, because most of us just assume that, you get up, you sleep in, you're getting there till 10, you're in your pajamas or underwear, you do a couple calls for maybe an hour or two, then you take some time off and maybe a couple more later. Like, give us the reality of what a day is like for you in order to be successful in telesales. What does it take?
yeah, the biggest thing is being very flexible. Um, uh, so the better the system you have, the easier it can be, but it's never easy. So day to day is getting up at 8 o'clock whenever I've got appointments. If I don't have appointments, then I'm dialing. And sometimes I'm working till 8, 9 o'clock at night.
Okay.
So I'm working when people are available. Unfortunately, you can't anywhere, whether you're in going in home or your telesales, you have to be available and flexible. But telesales is especially important because these people can just hang up on you. So you can't just walk into their home and say, I can do this. They will, if they don't feel like talking to you, they will hang up. If they are busy, if they're in a bad mood, they will hang up. So day to day, I don't necessarily have set hours. I try to set hours, right? But you almost can't have set hours when you have people who are up late, or they work through the day. So
Okay.
um,
What would you guesstimate though? How many hours a day are you spending on the phone, or how many hours a week if it's kind of inconsistent daily, or how would you guesstimate that?
I would say I'm spending at least 6 to 8 hours a day on the phone. Um, it's yeah, I would say on a daily basis, it's about 6 to 8 hours on the phone.
Okay. And
So
what would you tell somebody like myself that sees you guys doing the business from home and it seems so glamorous and so much better after we get tired of dealing with vehicle maintenance and traffic and all the other fun things that happen in home? What would you say to somebody who would be considering going to telesales? What kind of person would be maybe the right fit that could be successful to transition?
sure. So just the same, it's just as awful in doing telesales as it is face to face, depending on your personality and your desires, right? What your preferences are. So I would say choose wisely because it can be very difficult, and you really have to have you have to work very hard to know how to speak to somebody over the phone. You have to figure out how to communicate your emotions over the phone
Yeah.
because you're not looking them face to face.
Yeah, you're lacking that the physical part of it, like the communication that you're able to provide in person that you can't do
Yep.
on the phone. So it's much more important to have your tone, your tempo, your pace, all those things, lined out a lot more as a telesales agent, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, typically if any one of those is missing, even a lay down sale can be lost.
Wow. Okay. And then talk to me about some of the other specific challenges. One of the things that comes to my mind is not every carrier that we work with is going to be available to do telesales. So that kind of limits your options as opposed to what you'd have available as a face-to-face agent. Would you say it's been a challenge for you, or do you feel comfortable with all the carriers that you have available, or can you speak to us about that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So when it comes to carriers, I have no problems. I hear a lot that many agents are afraid to do like the digital signatures and everything. Again, previous experience taught me how to navigate that over the phone. So I have no problems getting signatures, doing voice, whatever I need to do for the client. I gauge that within the call to see what is going to be best. But as far as carriers go, absolutely, I have no issues with the carriers that are available to me. Usually, whether it be the lowest cost carriers or the mid-tier carriers that are a little bit higher priced but are a little bit more lenient on underwriting, those are all work very well over the phone.
Okay.
So
Got it. And then how important would you say having a script for telesales would be to you, and kind of guide us through the evolution of kind of maybe where you started versus what you're doing today as far as script goes?
Yeah. So script I would say that's another reason why I absolutely love telesales versus in-home, is because in-home, it's pretty awkward to have a sheet of paper up in front of you and to be reading off that sheet of paper, or to even a guide, right?
Yeah.
So telesales, there is not a single call I make without my script in front of me. It is the most important thing. If I don't have my script, I tend to go off, which is very easy to do with some of the talkers we get. So yeah, the script is absolutely important. It's not always about the exact wording of everything. I have found that one of the things coming over to Dave's group was the whenever it comes to the structure of the sale, that's where I realized I had really strayed from. In the beginning, that's the beauty about being in Dave's group, is there's not so much noise. There's not 10 different groups that you can listen to at once that will take you off. Oftentimes in the beginning, I would think that, oh, I'm doing this incorrectly because so-and-so says it this way, so I would change it.
Yeah.
That is probably the worst way to handle telesales, is changing things constantly. Find the way you like it, but always make sure, no matter how you say it, it's all, me personally, I believe there's 4 parts to every sale. So if you miss any one of those parts, you're going to either lose it or the client's going to charge back on you.
Okay. Would you think that the chargebacks, or did you have enough experience out in the field to kind of compare? Are chargebacks more prevalent in telesales based on your knowledge, or is it less common, or what would you say about?
Yeah, I would say it's a little more common in telesales. Just some rough numbers. Whenever I was in home for roughly 6 months, I had maybe 2 chargebacks throughout that entire period.
Okay.
Now I didn't sell as much, so I sell far more. I was on an average of about 12,000 a month AP in home. I'm now over 20,000 average in AP through telesales.
And that's
so the more you, that's a month.
Okay, got it. Okay.
Yeah, monthly. Yeah, I wish it was weekly. Getting to that. But yeah, I do. It's really the numbers game whenever it comes to chargebacks. Is the more you sell, the more likely you are going to have chargebacks.
Yeah.
And mitigating chargebacks comes a lot with that process of the sale. If you are following the process, finding whys, the whole nine, and then in the end tying it down. That's something I learned with previous sales experience, was tying down that sale, making sure that they keep it and understand why they're buying in the first place, and then letting them know that you're always going to be there. I think that also mitigates many of the chargebacks that I used to run into when I didn't have the proper structure.
Understood. And what are some of those things that maybe you changed? Because some of the things that I've kind of overheard for telesales people is like sending them a copy of your license by a text or an email when you're on the phone with them, or sending them like a business card with your picture, things like that. Or are you do anything like that? Or what have you found to kind of be the helpful in that area?
Yeah, absolutely. So that comes along with that's a large part of the trust that you develop over the phone or doing telesales. Which is really hard, right? You can build trust in home very easily, face to face, because they're seeing you. Telesales, yes, you have to make sure that you're sending them that type of information. So like before we actually, one of the key components that I do to make sure that they 100% have my trust. So we're not getting into an application and all of a sudden they're telling me, my kids want me to think about it, right? One of the key things that I do is I don't actually send them anything about me up until we're ready to process an application. So right before we get ready to process the application, I say, okay, so Miss Mary, I want you to know exactly who you're dealing with. I'm going to be asking for some personal information. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to send you my business card, and just going to send you a quick text message so that way you can see exactly who you're dealing with. It's got my personal cell phone number on it, and it's also got my license number on it. So if you ever want to look me up, you can. If you ever need to call me, that's the same number that my own mother calls me on. So you can give me a call anytime, and I want you to save that number. And on top of that, I want you to give that to your kids. So, or your beneficiary, right? Johnny, I want you to give that number to Johnny. So that way, when that time comes, I'm here for him. He doesn't have to call me, but I am his agent, and I feel like it's my duty to always be here for you and your beneficiary. And usually that is how I do the first tie down of the sale. So, and then again, build that trust so that way, again, we don't get into an application, they start backing out. So.
Got it. No, I like that. I think those are some great tips there. All right. And then to wrap things up here, Ryan, let's say that there's somebody out there who's been doing telesales for whatever amount of time. Maybe they've run into some challenges. Maybe they haven't been as successful as they were hoping to be right out of the gate. What are maybe one or two things that are like essential fundamental things that they can tweak or change so that they want to make sure that they get right in order to be successful in telesales?
I would say if you're the biggest thing is getting down the 4 parts of the sale, in my opinion. How I go about it is the 4 parts of the sale. So making sure you know exactly what those are. An easy tweak is just work more hours. Okay. It's not fun working more, but if you work more, it will come. Yeah. So I would say that's one of the biggest things, is to just work more if you're not making the sales. And I would say the other part is getting involved with someone who is successful in doing telesales. Having a mentor. Yes, I mean, absolutely huge, whether it be a mentor or a buddy. If you just doing a Zoom, or you guys have a call after each one of your calls, just to recap what was said and go over the details of what could have went wrong. Being there in the moment is absolutely huge. I would say that was one thing that absolutely turned it around for me for telesales, was being involved with a friend of mine, and we would just dial together. Okay. Got it. Yeah, and I would say very similar things to folks out in the field, which is interesting how different it can be, but how similar it can be. So if somebody were out there struggling working face to face, what my suggestion would be similar to what you said.
buy more leads, run more appointments, right? That's kind of the solution most time, is just more activity. And then in addition to that, I've actually had both a mentor and a friend here that I ride out with in the field. I still ride out with him probably once a week. And just having somebody that kind of understands you, your situation, your successes and your failures, and can just be that shoulder to lean on, whether they're more experienced than you or not, because I know that I've provided value to him, even though he's got 10 years on me, right? And so I think that could be very essential for anybody in the field, is having either a coach, a mentor, or just an ally, you know, in the field with you.
100%.
But before I let you go, Ryan, you mentioned the 4 parts of the sale. Can you review those for us real quick, and what you find? How do you break it down as far as that goes?
Yeah, so I can't say that I have them officially named. Probably need to put my trademark on it, name them and put my trademark on it. But the 4 parts of the sale to me are your introduction. So always make sure you've got a good soft introduction, letting them know that you're there to help them, why you're there, and then introducing yourself, you know, finding out what they're looking into. Or why they started looking. I always ask, how long have you been looking? It seems like a phenomenal, to me, it's worked out really well as an icebreaker, right? They start opening up right away. And then the next part is actually your introduction of explaining who you are. So this is where you build the trust of you're going to be the best, the best option for them, because you're going to shop for them. And then once you've explained who you are, then it's really finding out why they're requesting the information, why they want insurance to begin with. So I always tell my agents, get 3 whys. So if you're new, always make sure you get 3 whys. Once you've got your whys, then you can move on to leaning into the application. So the third part is getting prepared for the application, and then processing the application. So getting prepared for the application is just as important as everything else. I let them know, hey, look, I'm going to be asking for important information, your social, your bank information. Once I'm done asking, after I let them know I'm going to ask for that, I say, now, are those going to be any problem for you today? And 99% of the time they say no, right? Because I've already built enough trust. I don't build rapport right out the gate, because to me that comes off as a salesman, and very salesy. And it could be just me, right? But I build rapport throughout the entire call. So I talk to them as if we're talking right now, or as if I literally tell all of them that, hey, look, if I wouldn't do this for my own mother, I wouldn't do it for you. Yeah. Say it on every single call. So the last part is tying down the sale. So if you don't tie down the sale, you stand a very good chance of losing it. Unless it's someone who's just begging to have insurance right now and wants to keep it, you're going to lose they're most likely going to have buyer's remorse and wind up canceling it. So if you don't tie it down, let them know that you're always there. Make sure that they have all your information. Make sure that they have all their questions answered. If you don't do all those things, you stand a much greater chance of them charging back, because again, they don't know you from Adam. So, right. Well, great, Ryan, man, I really appreciate your time today, brother. I think there's some valuable nuggets in there, and both for telesales agents and for face-to-face folks. So if you're out there and you're watching this video, you want to learn more about David DeFord or the DeFord Insurance Group, head over to daviddeford.com/apply if you're ready to get started. Or if you just want to learn more information, daviddeford.com, there's a link at the top of the page to schedule a call. We can sit down, have a one-on-one conversation to learn more about your situation, or if you got specific questions that we can answer for you. But again, thank you for joining us today, Ryan. I appreciate you, brother, and great luck out there to you. Okay. Absolutely. Thanks, JD.